Hi, everybody, and welcome into Calling the Game, an opportunity for a scientist and a broadcaster / historian to get together and talk about various things sporting good. I'm Chris Lynch.
I'm Thomas Villone Jr.
And awareness and awakeness are optional on this show.
Are you mocking me already?
Hey, you said you wanted me to make some reference to it already, and
Touche.
You invite it on yourself, so I'm going to go ahead and...
I invite a lot of things on myself, Chris, just for the record.
That is what she said. And yes, I made that joke. You're welcome. I am... Hey, you're opening...
Steve Carell would be so proud right now on some fundamental level.
Hey, you're opening yourself up for these sorts of jokes.
All right.
So...
I'm just going to slam my head against the wall somewhere in my head.
No, you won't. You have no more walls to slam your head into. Your head has already done a good job.
This is a train wreck happening, folks. All right. Anyways.
Let's get into actually talking about sports stuff and not just making fun of Tomas.
This podcast is now into the comedy section.
Hey, I mean, we got to make some form of entertainment for all parts, even those who aren't sports fans. Fair enough? Fair enough, we suppose. Yeah. All right, let us dive into the sporting content of the week, and we haven't been here since predicting the week of the NFL Conference Championship game, so we've got the Super Bowl to predict. But before then, we've got some hockey and some basketball. We're going to go with hoops first. First up, we've got an old-timey matchup that used to command respect and now
is the laughingstock.
Yeah, just commands a whole lot of laughter. Tomas, what's the matchup?
Lakers versus Celtics.
Okay, you all know how great these organizations at one point were and how still respectable the Celtics are. They're the second best team in the Eastern Conference. Isaiah Thomas is making a case that he could be the MVP of the league. I don't think he'll win it this year. I don't think he should with the way that James Harden is playing right now. But he is making a case that he should get votes as the MVP of the league.
You're forgetting Russell Westbrook as well.
Yeah, his team is in 7th place. I'll take James Harden, who is averaging just slightly less with less to work with and has got his team in 4th place.
Really less to work with? Do you think the Rockets have less to work with?
Steven Adams, Victor Oladipo. Who's the second best player on the Rockets?
Isn't Osik?
No. It's Ryan Anderson.
Beverly.
It's either Beverly or
Ryan Anderson. All right. Yeah. I'll give you the points on Harden, but it's just Westbrook's going to be averaging a triple-double. No one's done this since Oscar Robertson.
Trust me, I understand that, but I'd like to see them win a little bit more than being just 7th place is all. But that's my only hesitation. But anyway.
Fair.
Anywho, so Isaiah is averaging just under 30 points, and he's 5'9".
Mm-hmm.
And Al Horford is playing very well. Jay Crowder is up in his game. I got to see the Celtics play against Houston.
I did see that, actually.
Last week. It was a phenomenal game.
Mm-hmm.
Worst officiating I've seen in an NBA game that I've been to, but it was... And everybody who was there, even Rockets fans, agreed that it was horrible officiating.
Yeah.
But still a very good game, and they've won... They've been on a tear as of late, and the Lakers have. They're the second worst team in the West.
Let's put it this way, folks: when the 76ers stand a chance against you,
you need to quit.
More on that later.
Yeah. Well, okay, that might be. Yeah, we'll talk about the Sixers in a not tanking or Sam Hinkie-esque light later. The Lakers, though. I mean,
they're hurting.
Boy, they brought in Magic Johnson back to be part of the organization again, to be a business executive and a business aide to Jeannie Buss.
But that's the thing, though. He's only business. I mean, how does that help your team develop?
I'm not really sure.
Well, there you go.
Not really sure. I mean, when Lou Williams is leading you in scoring with 18.2 points, and Julius Randle, a power forward, is leading your team in assists at under 4 assists per game, you know you are in some trouble. And we are being generous by saying trouble.
I don't know why, but the Who's My Generation just, started screaming through my head.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's a painful scream right now.
Yeah, naturally. Just good job, my friend. You've made yourself even older than you already were before we did this podcast. Okay, so I mean, the more interesting LA matchup for the Celtics is really going to be against the Clippers when Paul Pierce plays his last ever game in the Garden.
Amazingly enough, in a jersey that's not green.
It's such a shame that he will not play his last game in the Garden as a Celtic. He's one of the greatest in the history of the organization.
Undoubtedly.
He's the second best small forward in the history of the organization, behind, want to guess? Yep, thank you, Mr. Bird. Your bird noises are appreciated. So, okay, how many points we agree that we believe the Celtics will win this game against the Lakers, right?
No question.
All right, how many points do they win by?
Differential 16.
16? I'll say it's 10. And the only reason I will say 10 is because Luke Walton is a great coach.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs more talent on this unit. But for this one game,
he needs cohesion is what he needs.
Yeah, he needs cohesion, but he can get his guys up for one game. And he can get it. It does not take enough to get the Lakers up for the Celtics. It takes very little to do that.
This is fair.
The fans are going to be booing. The people are going to be making all kinds of noise. It's going to be something interesting. They're going to be chanting "Beat LA" about 20 hours before the game, and it's going to be great. But Celtics just have more talent than the Lakers.
I just see IT going off for another 20 points in the fourth quarter.
And no one's ever done that, at least on recorded memory.
He's had 85 points in the past 2 games.
Unreal.
43 of those alone are in the 2 fourth quarters.
Again, unreal. Unreal what Isaiah's doing in the fourth quarter.
Now, if he could do it against a top caliber defense, my eyes would just drop out of their sockets.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
But against the Lakers, I see another 20 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. All right. So we think it'll be a Boston Massacre tonight in the Garden. We don't think it'll be a massacre against the Clippers. They'll actually play hard.
That's going to be very well contested, I suspect.
Pierce will play more minutes than he has for much of the season.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is his
last trip to the Garden.
Final game.
I am trying to get into the Garden for that game before the Super Bowl.
If you do, I expect all the pictures.
You trust me, dude. I will be. There'll be a mix of lots of pictures and me bawling my eyes out because Pierce is my favorite athlete in any sport.
That's fair.
And I've already seen David Ortiz play his last game ever. And I'm seeing my favorite athletes out. And I am getting the pleasure, at least in many cases, of seeing them in person finish out their careers, which is kind of special. So, okay, we're done with that game. What's up next?
Next game we got is the T-Wolves versus the Pistons.
Okay, this is actually a really interesting matchup because you've got two teams that are both fairly young, two teams that are still trying to figure themselves out. This game is at the Palace of Auburn Hills at 7:30 tonight. This is a very interesting game.
This is an old school matchup.
Yeah.
You got teams that are dominated by their big guys in the paint.
Yeah.
You got Anthony Towns on one side and you got Drummond in the other.
I think Karl Anthony Towns is a year or two away from being a grade A player in the NBA. I think he's a B+ right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that just comes with more seasoning. But he's with the best coach possible in Tom Thibodeau.
Oh, yes.
And I am just a little bit confused by the almost lackadaisical performance by the Pistons in a lot of their games so far this season.
They've been in a pretty, I'm not going to say slump, but there's just, like, they have the pieces, but something's not there.
Yeah, they're missing something. They're missing something, and I'm not sure what. I mean, they've won their last two, or their last game with a blowout against the Pelicans, and they almost beat Boston in Boston.
Yep.
But, it's kind of hard to corral IT, especially when he gets going in the fourth. And what concerns me about the Pistons is really their backcourt. And
they don't have much of one, unfortunately.
Reggie Jackson has got the talents. Kadavius Caldwell Pope has got some talents. Jackson is leading the team in assists with over 5. Tobias Harris leading the team in scoring at 16.7. But, I mean...
On paper, they should be a lot better.
On paper, they should be.
But there's something that's a little off. I feel that because of the way that they have to utilize Drummond, they don't get to use their backcourt as effectively.
That's probably a fair criticism. It is if when you run your offense through such an old school kind of player, you are going to suffer a little bit in terms of being able to run the floor up and down. But, I mean, to be fair, there are teams that have made it work. Like the Lakers in the 80s had the ultimate slow down, give it to one guy in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they could still run it up and down the floor. Though, to be fair, I'm not sure that's the greatest comparison because it's not like Magic Johnson couldn't play the slow physical game.
Well, so here's the thing. We're in a league now where ball pace is just nonstop. We're in a league now where the backcourt is what tends to dominate your scoring percentages.
That's fair.
So if Drummond's your centerpiece, how can you use Reggie Jackson? How can you use Caldwell Pope as pieces to help either A, remove pressure off Drummond so he can score more efficiently, or B, make Drummond just so powerful that he frees up an open shooter and suddenly it's an open range shot?
I think you got to move Drummond around move him around more liberally as a screener.
Well, I mean, he's young, so he can definitely do it.
Yeah. I think you ought to experiment a little bit more with him in the pick and roll game instead of just him in the post game.
Stan, if you're listening, we can give you our phone numbers.
Yeah, we can give you tips on this, but I think, and to be fair, they didn't use him a whole lot in the pick and roll when he was at UConn.
No.
So mostly he's a lob it up to him and let him go get it or create something off of an offensive rebound. But you have to be more creative with the way you use your big guy than that. And you have to ask him, I think really you have to ask him to pass a little bit more. I mean, he's only averaging 1.1 assists a game. Oh, gee, are you shocked that the center is only averaging that many assists, or a traditional center?
Well, yeah. Once you're in the post like that and you start backing down, they're gonna try crowding you, and he can power his way through the rim. It's just that I don't think he has the court vision to see the two guys who are on his weak side who could potentially get the ball and go for a shot.
He doesn't have Embiid kind of vision. Again, more on him later. But I think they're going to have to just be a little bit more creative with the way that they use Drummond, either as a screener, as a guy who can roll, as a guy who can make some plays. But I think they're going to have to do that. Meanwhile, in the land of 10,000 lakes, that young Timberwolf team is an exciting team to watch, man.
That it is.
That team is fun to watch, and they're doing all this with a guy who's playing point guard for them. Who Rubio is averaging 8.2 assists a game. I'm not sure that he's going to be staying around in Minnesota that much longer.
I don't see it either at the moment,
because the minutes that Chris Dunn has played when he's gotten in there, he's been effective. He's not gotten that many minutes or that much of an opportunity. He's averaging 17 minutes a game and only averaging under 4 points a game. But he's playing backup point guard on a team where the backcourt is not the star of the show.
This is true, and then suddenly you throw in the piece of Andrew Wiggins, and you become even more front court heavy.
Oh, Wiggins off the wing is dangerous. This Timberwolves team is basically an Oklahoma City Thunder team with a superstar coach as well. The one thing
not like Presti wasn't.
No, Sam Presti was the GM. It was Scott Brooks who was the coach.
Oh, dang.
It's okay, dude. It's okay. So, I mean, Brooks was no superstar coach.
Yeah.
He was no superstar under any circumstances. But, Minnesota with Tom Thibodeau, who is one of the best coaches in the game today.
Agreed.
I would not be surprised if Minnesota goes on a run and if they make the 8th seed of the postseason this year in the Western Conference.
I don't see that happening. I still think they have to mature a little bit more as a unit together. but they've been playing together for so much for so long now that I see it happening. Not this season, but next season.
Okay. They'll be a low seed, but you know what I like? I like the way that Minnesota is developing a culture, or is really trying to develop a culture of winning. They're not trying to tank and then hope to turn it on at some point later. They are actively trying to win and develop talent at the same time.
Agreed.
I really like what I see out of Minnesota, and I'm going to pick Minnesota over Detroit in this game.
I am going to disagree with you on this one, and I'm going to call Detroit over Minnesota.
All right.
Drummond has just been too much of a problem for Minnesota in the past. In the last 3 games, he's averaged 22 points and 17 rebounds. 17.
Tell me who else from Detroit is going to show up.
Who else from Detroit is going to show up? Caldwell Pope, definitely better. Same with Reggie Jackson.
All right. I mean, I ultimately would take Rubio for right now over the backcourt, and I would take Zach LaVine for just being a more athletic player than anyone who's coming out of the Detroit backcourt. I think I will give you that Drummond right now is a better center than Karl Anthony Towns for his entire package, but I will take Minnesota for a better coaching unit. Much as I love Stan, what great coach as he is, but I will definitely take Minnesota in this game. And okay. I think it's a close game. I think it's a 5-point game.
I'm going to call this one 8 points. 104.96.
104.96. I think it's 101.96.
All right,
moving on. What's next?
So this is one that we've been wanting to talk about for a little bit. It's actually no, sorry, wrong one. Clippers versus Raptors. Sorry.
This is also another good one that we want to talk about. And the Clippers, I don't know what to think about these guys, to be honest. I thought they were a championship contender team when the season got underway, but
you cripple any one of their starting 5 and they're done.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to think of this unit. Just, I know that their starting unit of Paul, Reddick, Jordan, Griffin, and who's starting at 3 for them? There's your problem right there also.
Their 3 is wow.
Yeah, that's a problem. If they've never really had a small forward that can be. They've never really had a small forward is their main issue, which is why the trade that came up when discussing for Carmelo Anthony was.
I remember hearing about that. Yes.
That trade was at least an interesting proposition, simply because.
Is Jamal Crawford who's their 3?
I guess technically. I guess technically. I mean, they're even having times where they're putting Austin Rivers at the 3. They are an unbalanced team. I mean, Bass coming off the bench. Pierce has barely played at all this season. Shut up, laptop. We're not really interested in what you have to say.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah. Right now, we're not interested in what you have to say.
So apparently the small forward starting in front of Pierce is Luke Mbamute.
There's your issue right there. No offense to him, but I didn't even know the dude's name. Tell me a little bit about the dude with 4 names.
He's 6 feet. He's listed actually as a power forward.
Of course he is.
He's listed as a power forward. He's doesn't play very much. The last 5 games, he played 29 against Atlanta. He played 18 against Philadelphia. He played 12 against Golden State. He played 13 against Phoenix and 4 minutes against Golden State. And he's their starting small forward? Wow, yeah, they've really got a gap there.
Yeah.
Wesley Johnson apparently is also listed under that.
A lot for them. All right. I mean, the simple fact is that the trio of Griffin, Jordan, and Paul is just outstanding. I mean, Paul's not there right now.
Yeah.
But Blake Griffin being back in with 21.4 points a game this season and can still get up there for some dunks. Pierce has barely played at all this season.
This is correct.
He's on his last legs. There is a part of me that really wishes he would have retired after that season he had with Washington. And after that postseason run he had. He spent his energy on that. So,
it's a tough one to see sometimes.
Yeah. Toronto, meanwhile,
They're on fire.
uh,
Maybe not on fire per se. They've definitely slugged a
what are
little
you
as of
talking
late.
about? They had a stretch in which they lost to the Celtics their last game. They barely edged out the Pelicans at home. They lost to Orlando at home. They beat Milwaukee at home. And then, in consecutive order, they lost to Memphis, San Antonio, Phoenix, Charlotte, and Philadelphia.
They're number 3 in the East. Okay.
They are number 3 in the East.
I've got to give credence to a team that's got Lowry, Valanciunas, and DeRozan.
All right, that's fair. And they've, to be fair, they've got a better balance to them than the Clippers do.
They have a bench.
They have a bench.
They actually have a bench.
It's not just chairs with humans that sit on them sometimes.
Oh, that's harsh, man.
I mean, am I wrong?
No.
In a basketball sense, their bench is kind of pathetic. No offense to them, but guys, come
Clippers,
on.
the Clippers, that is.
Oh, yeah. Toronto, I mean, DeMar DeRozan is lighting it up at 27 points a game and 5 boards and almost 4 assists.
Do you want to know what's funny?
What?
So, as good as DeRozan is, apparently Lowry likes playing against the Clippers. In the last game, he had 27.
Awesome.
So that shows you a mismatch. Once you throw Chris Paul out of the equation, JJ Redick, you're good, but I think if DeRozan starts moving around, Lowry's going to get open screens the entire time.
Oh, yeah. So that's going to be only a minor problem, and by minor, I mean, seriously, dude, you're in trouble. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. I will pick Toronto in this game.
I agree.
I think that the Clippers will make it an interesting game simply because their front court can match. Like, Jordan and Griffin can match.
Is Griffin playing again?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been back the last couple games. He's been playing pretty well, actually. He had if memory serves, he had a pretty decent game against.
So he was their leading scorer when they last played in November.
How many points did he get?
He got 26.
Okay, yeah, well.
So definitely the front. So I'll give the Clippers the front court, but I got to give Toronto the back court. Without Chris Paul, I think Toronto's just gonna win.
Well, okay. Well, last night against Golden State, it was a 13-point loss, but Griffin shot 52% from the field, 11 of 13 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, 3 steals, and 31 points.
Wow.
So, if he plays like that, and you put Chris Paul with him to orchestrate the show and make magic happen, then...
Okay. If Chris Paul were there, I'd just give this one straight to the Clippers. But he's not.
He's not.
So I can't do that.
Also, he had a highlight reel dunk over Mo Spates last night. So, it was, Mo Spates does not play for Golden State anymore. I'll take Toronto by 7. 105-98.
I'll call this one by 5. 108-103.
All right. What's up next? Is this the game we've been meaning to talk about?
This is the game we wanted to talk about.
Okay, so this is your San Antonio Spurs against the process embodied in the Philadelphia 76ers. And they have become the most interesting team in the league to talk about. And it isn't because they're horrifically awful in every conceivable way.
If you had talked to us last time, or if you had talked to us 1 year ago about this time, it would have just been the simple statement of, the 76ers. Can we buy them just a fruit cake or something to help them sleep better at night?
Hey, at least they're not the Brooklyn Nets. Philadelphia right now, 18-31. Brooklyn right now, 9-40.
9-40?
Oh yeah, they're awful. They're straight up garbage.
Look at the size of the contracts on that team.
What contracts?
Fair.
What players? Do they have human beings playing for that team?
Greg Popovich nominates the Fork to replace whoever their point guard is.
I mean, Greg Popovich is coaching against this Sixer team. And to be fair, there are still trade rumors swirling around Jahlil Okafor. The Bulls are the team that's been thrown in. I mean, that front court is kind of loaded right now. And Okafor is not a small forward, which is the only forward position that is sort of open right now. Because Embiid is the center.
Yeah. I mean, this was mentioned last year. Philadelphia effectively has 3 centers.
Yeah, I mean, Embiid is the center. You can play Nerlens as a power forward. It wouldn't. It's not his ideal position, but you can get away with playing him there. But their front court is really good, and what I love it also, they're coached by a former BU player. Yeah, who would have thought that BU would have? Whenever you think Boston University in the sports world, you're thinking of their hockey prowess.
That I agree with.
But they've produced some real basketball. Brett Brown, you're doing BU proud by coaching a team into relevance again.
There you go.
All right. So, however, much as I like what I've seen out of Philly, the Spurs. It is the Spurs ultimately.
We may be down Pau Gasol. We may be down another player or two. But then you realize that our bench is just another squad.
Yep. I mean,
we've got 2 guys right now who I'm actually really excited to see. Davis Bertans and Dwayne Dedmon.
Okay.
Dedmon played 22 minutes in the last game. His stat line read 13 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks.
Very nice.
Davis Bertans, he is a stretch 4. And if you leave him alone, he will sink you in 3-pointers. If you leave him a lane, he will go in and he will dunk on you. I like watching him play. I like seeing the old Spurs squad, but it gives me great joy to see the development of these younger players.
You're going to need all of that. You're going to need all of that. If you're going to face... if you're going to end up facing Golden State in the postseason, which...
It's actually funny you say that because the Spurs, because of roster changes, now have one of the youngest teams in the league.
Funny how that works.
Shh, don't let out our secret.
I wasn't going to say anything. I mean, I love the Spurs being that under the radar team that no one is actually talking about. And these teams played very recently. In fact, it was the last game for each one.
Yep. They played, I believe it was last night or 2 nights ago.
It was a 102-86 San Antonio victory. Leading scorer for Philly was Embiid did not play in that game. So Ilyasova played 39 minutes and led the team with 25 points scoring, but there was only one other Philly player who got to double digits, and that was Dario Saric. Okafor only got to 9 points and 9 rebounds.
Yikes.
And the Spurs, God, this is just balanced, and it's beautiful. Leonard with 19 points.
Bertans, 12. Dedmon, 13. Remember, Bertans and Dedmon are bench players for us.
And note for Dedmon, that's 13 points and 10 rebounds.
Yeah.
David Lee coming off the bench to get 12 points and 9 boards. And 2 steals and 2 blocks.
Patty Mills, 12. Jonathan Simmons, 11.
6 assists out of Tony Parker and only 1 point, but still the assist.
Parker wants one thing. He wants hardware.
Yeah, he wants to win as much as possible, which is Simmons coming off the bench with 11 points.
Danny Green got 12.
I mean, it's just balance all the way around. It's magnificent.
I mean, Kyle Anderson, he played 24 minutes. 4 points. Who cares? He got 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block.
Oh, it's outstanding how balanced, how perfectly balanced this unit is. I can't help but appreciate what they're doing to remind everybody of how great you can have this sport be when you play as a full unit.
I mean, with the exception of Leonard and Aldridge and Gasol, we're effectively almost kind of a no-name squad.
Kind of.
Kind of. Like we're there, but it's like, if you look at our bench, I mean, our players are...
Who?
Are average, ordinary NBA players.
But the way they work as a unit is...
Oh, Popovich.
You are a mastermind.
He is the best coach in the league.
He is.
He's the best coach ever. I will go as far as saying that.
Really?
I love Red Auerbach. I like Phil Jackson, but both of those guys had players on their roster and kept the high-profile players for as long as they could. The Spurs have had 3, maybe 4.
I was going to say Tim Duncan is...
Duncan, Robinson.
Parker and Ginobili.
And you could consider Parker and Ginobili.
I say Parker and Ginobili are both Hall of Famers.
Oh no, they're definitely Hall of Famers. But the rosters that have been sculpted around those guys. Do you remember Malik Rose?
I do.
Okay. Sean Elliott?
I remember Sean Elliott.
Mario Ellie.
I remember Mario Ellie. More for Houston, but I remember Mario Ellie.
Will Purdue.
I remember Will Purdue.
Man. Okay,
but he was with the Bulls.
We're going to get really, really obscure right now.
All right.
Ben Udrich.
Was he on the 99 team?
No, he was on the 03.
Oh, okay.
Sean Marks?
05?
I think he was 03 as well.
Okay. The 03 one, I'll admit, is the one I know the least about.
But. I believe someone did a tally when Duncan retired. He's had 130 players play around him.
That's incredible. Oh, by the way, semi-random question.
Shoot.
Pau Gasol, Hall of Famer or no?
That's a good one.
The second piece of 2 championship teams with the Lakers.
Yeah, I gotta say yes.
Very good player with the Bulls, and is still continuing to be
He's productive.
Excellent.
He is productive. He doesn't put points on the board necessarily, but he's an anchor, and I like it. Especially as most teams are now going towards a small ball unit.
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs are one of the last teams left that have a 1-2 punch, but it's an anchored 1-2. Yeah. And Powell plays higher in the key, which makes him really, really good for pick and rolls.
He can make jump shots. He can make those pick and pop shots.
Actually, so the one thing that stats guys don't like about the Spurs right now is that they're leading the league in mid-range jump shots.
I buy that. I mean, it's the old curse of Kevin Garnett. Pau Gasol was never an overpowering sort of player, nor was KG. But he could step outside and make those shots, which is actually the reason why that matchup between the Celtics and Lakers in 8 and 10 were really compelling, is because those players were so similar.
Yep.
But I'm getting off track.
Anyway, Spurs win this one.
Spurs win.
But Philadelphia, thank you for growing. Thank you for giving us a chance to see a team come from the bottom and just develop. It's a joy to watch.
It is wonderful. I really hope they continue this. And you know what? I will give a lot of credit to the great fans of Philadelphia.
You stuck it out.
You deserve. And that was the worst organization in the history of basketball, what they put you through.
If you get to the historical stuff, I think there's one or two more. But modern basketball, yes.
I mean, intentionally losing seasons.
Yep.
And still charging absurd prices. That was absolutely absurd what they put their fans through.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God that Jerry Colangelo is running this organization now. But I think it's a 15-point Spur victory. 115-100.
Yep, I'm with you on that one.
All right, moving on. What's next?
Hockey!
Hooray! Let's step out to the good old hockey game with an initial matchup of two of the best teams in the league. Two teams that will have at least a great shot of making the Eastern Conference Finals, and one player in particular that Tomas is just fawning over right now that makes the Bruins fan in me not that pleased. I know that Crosby's great. I know that Sidney Crosby is a Hall of Famer walking right now.
That stat line, man. How do you argue with that stat line?
I don't. I just appreciate how good he really is, and by Jove, he's really good.
It's just incredible.
Oh, he's great. He is. I would name him the best player of this generation.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny you in the least bit.
And Pittsburgh is the top team in goals per game. They're fourth in power play percentage, but there's two things about them that concern me. They're 22nd in the league in goals against.
Yeah, I was about
and
to
they're
say.
24th in penalty kill. That means they are in the bottom third of penalty kills.
So in gamer terminology, the glass cannon.
Pretty much, yeah. They will...
all offense, and then the defense is kind of secondary.
Whereas Columbus, third in goals per game. Best power play, 7th power play kill in the game, and fifth in goals against. And Columbus is a very unsexy team.
No, again, it's kind of like the Spurs. They're no names, basically.
They are a very unsexy team. And to be fair, in hockey is not a glamour sport. I mean, there are a few players like Bobby Orr and Wayne Gretzky who played, quote, glamour hockey, close quote. But even on those great Bruins teams in the 70s with Orr, you had Esposito who was ready to mix it up. You had enough players. You had Terry O'Reilly who was willing to mix it up and get ugly. I mean, Cam Atkinson is really the best player individually on the unit for Columbus. He's had an excellent season. He will not win the MVP this year. That'll be Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
The MVP in this game is also known as the Hart Trophy. So
fair enough.
I mean, but Crosby's line, you've raved about it already. I'm going to tell people the line. So he's played in 43 games. He has got 56 points, 28 goals, 28 assists. Oh, and did I mention that he has got the second most assists on his team? With Evgeny Malkin also putting up big numbers. Oh, and
There's
Phil Kessel on the same team.
So again, these guys, it's offense. You go down the stat sheet, though, and then suddenly Columbus has a brick wall in the name of Bobrovsky.
Sergei Bobrovsky. Sergei, how you doing, my friend? It is beautiful to watch you play hockey.
Sergei, I sincerely hope you're Russian. If not, I will find out where you're from, and I will sit down and I will talk to you in that language.
I believe he is Russian. I think he is, but regardless of where he is from, he is playing phenomenal.
Привет, Sergei. Привет.
Is he from Russia?
He is.
Okay. So, recently, they had that one stretch early on in which they lit up the world.
Everything apart.
I mean, recently, their last game was against New York in Madison Square Garden, and this is at the end of a long road trip, which has included a 7-6 overtime victory against Ottawa.
Oof.
It is not like Columbus cannot score goals; they can score.
Mm-hmm.
But they lost 4-2 to the Islanders and 4-3 to Nashville, which is respectable. Then they beat New York in Madison Square Garden, 6-4. So it's a good unit, and Pittsburgh will give them quite a challenge. And Matt Murray is the understated piece of the Penguins team. I mean, the starting goaltender who won the Stanley Cup after filling in for Marc-Andre Fleury last year.
Mm-hmm.
So this game is in Pittsburgh. I think Columbus is going to be tired at the end of a really long road trip, and I will take Pittsburgh in this game. But I think it's a 2-goal game with the last one as an empty netter, 4-2.
Man, you really had me sit down and think about this one.
I did.
I'm looking at the projected lineups right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
You're welcome, I think.
This is a good game, man.
It's going to be a great game.
You know what? I'm going to go contra. I'm actually going to go with the Blue Jackets.
Okay.
Blue Jackets going to be a very close game.
Yeah.
3-2.
All right.
I think the defense and Bobrovsky are the keys to beating Crosby and the Penguins, as much as I like Crosby.
Okay. I'll tell you how you beat them. You control the blue line and don't allow Pittsburgh to get into any sort of offensive rhythm, and you can win.
Exactly. Hence the defense.
All right. I got respect for that. All right, next up. And we might want to move. Yeah, we're going to have to move things a little quicker.
Oh, yep.
But we'll be okay.
The Capitals versus the Canadiens.
Okay. I hate both of these teams, and I respect both of them because they are both phenomenal units. This game, by the way,
Flip a coin.
Yeah, so this game is going to be on Saturday at Montreal, and there's a giant part of me that wants to go to Montreal just to root against them. Washington, 5th in goals per game, 1st overall in goals against, 13th best power play, 5th best penalty kill in the game. They're one of the top defensive units in hockey. Montreal is no slouch in any of these. They've got the 2nd best penalty kill, 22nd power play kill. 22nd power play kill. And they're coming off a 3-1 loss to Philadelphia. Philadelphia. What? I don't like the Flyers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a bunch of thugs, and I don't like them that much. So, have I made my...
You've made your point.
I've made my point.
As simple as it is for me on this one, which it actually is not, I'll go with Montreal on this one.
I know you love some Carey Price. I know you love Carey Price, but
I just wish I just wish that the defense was a little bit better for Montreal, because then he wouldn't have to do his job as many times as he has to, because statistically at a certain point you keep firing shots off at them,
you will give up goals.
You're going to give up goals eventually.
I will trust the line of Nick Backstrom, Alex Ovechkin to make some noise up front, and I will trust Braden Holtby in net for Washington. I'll take the Capitals in this game, 3-2.
I'm calling it a 2-1 game.
All right.
2-1 game favor Montreal.
All right, that's fair. Next up,
the Ducks and the Rangers.
Okay, the Ducks are flying a little bit under the radar so far this season. They're not grabbing attention in the same way, but they are the fourth best team in the West, behind, in order, Minnesota, San Jose, and Chicago. But, they've always been a team that people have got a lot of respect for.
Yep.
Meanwhile, on the other side in New York,
the Rangers,
they have gotten a ton of notoriety and a ton of fame, and that is, I will say, in large part because they play in Madison Square Garden. They play in front of rabid fans, and much as I don't like New York, I will give the Rangers fans a whole lot of credit. They are a special breed in the world of hockey, and they're coming off of a 2-1 overtime victory against the Sabres and my friend Jack Eichel, who I quite like. Eichel's a pretty awesome dude. But I look at the Rangers and I see a very talented team, but I think this is one of the last years that this group is going to be together. They're already really starting to phase out Heinrich Lundqvist. I mean,
Lundqvist is at the end.
He's got a better record so far, but he's got a slightly worse save percentage, and Antti Ranta is already outperforming him in a lot of ways.
Yep,
but
they're starting to bring up Ranta a lot more too.
But Ranta is still the backup goaltender to Lundqvist, and the lines of Zuccarello, Stepan, Miller, Chris Kreider, Hayes, Grabner, and McDonough. This is an old team that I just don't see. I mean, they're gonna run out of steam eventually. Anaheim is. They're not a young team by any stretch of the imagination.
Neither team is, but I just see Anaheim having more points of attack.
I mean, Kessler and Getzlaf have been playing for a while together, and I think they've got younger legs, slightly younger than what New York has got. Though this game is in New York, and Anaheim, I think, they've been on the road for a little bit now. So again, road trips in hockey are difficult because the sport demands so much of its athletes.
That is correct.
So I am completely willing to, much as I don't... Actually, this is the... so this game is going to be the third game in a 6-game road trip. The last game was against Colorado. They beat 5-1, naturally. They will play at Florida tonight, at Tampa the next day. They play back-to-backs against the Panthers and the Lightning before going to play New York on Tuesday.
Putting it that way, you know what? I'll give it to the Rangers, actually.
I still think that the Ducks have more offensive potency, but I will take the Rangers as well, 3-1. I just think they'll be tired.
Yeah. I'll call it 2-1.
All right. Have we any more hockey games?
One more.
What's the one more?
The Blues versus the Senators.
Okay. I didn't expect a whole lot of Ottawa coming into this season. They're the 6th team in the Eastern Conference, so, not
bad.
too bad. Not too bad at all. I like what I see out of them. I have always had a liking for the Blues. I can't really tell you why, but I've always kind of liked the Blues. Though they are hanging on by a thread. Like, they're tied point totals with Calgary for the 8th spot. Oof. But they've got the tiebreaker right now, I think, because of a head-to-head matchup. But this is part of the reason that I like hockey a lot, is because these matchups will come right on down to the wire. And the Blues were in the conference finals last year against San Jose. So I like this unit. I like the players on it. I've always liked the team, the Blues, but they've got a slightly better better penalty kill unit than do the Senators. But
I'll give this one to the Senators.
Okay,
They just, looking at the stat lines, the Blues have Tarasenko. They've got Yakupov. But on the other side, you've got a team. The stat numbers aren't as high, but they're so nice and even across the entire way down. And then you've got goalies like Anderson and Condon.
I think that's fair.
I'll give this one to the Senators. It's gonna be a bit of a grinder, I think, though.
Yeah.
2-1 probably.
I think it's a 1-0 game, and I'll give it to Ottawa for the sake of arguments, and also because, again, it's a road game, and I think they're still at the point where they're fine-tuning bits. We're right after the All-Star break, and right now is when you're going to start to see more playoff-esque hockey. So I will give a slight edge to the Blues.
All right.
Moving on, we have got the biggest football game of the year, the guaranteed biggest single telecast in the United States and one of the biggest telecasts in the world on Sunday.
Do you know who it loses to?
What?
Do you know who it loses to, though? Time to be a bit of a snark.
The World Cup.
Football! No, I'm not. I'm just totally maxing out the waveforms right now.
My God, dude, you're taking your opportunity to be a worldly fan. Shh. I'm not blaming you. I don't blame you much. I just am laughing at how you're. Okay, all right. Okay, so in American football, or not communist football.
You mean the real sport?
The real sport in which people can beat each other up and get penalized for flopping.
That would actually be rugby.
Well, that too. Hey, they penalize you for embellishment in hockey as well.
Yeah, in rugby, there's something called the sin bin.
There is that in hockey too.
It's a little box.
Yeah, it's the same thing for.
All right.
It's the same thing. It's just one's on
My
ice.
sleep deprivation, you can clearly tell now, is beginning to kick in.
Only now?
Touche.
I mean, you mixed up the GM and coach of the Thunder at one point, dude. Come on.
Wow.
Yes, I have a memory, and it mostly works. Anywho, so we've got the Super Bowl matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots to talk about. And this is this is a really interesting matchup that we've got here. And the Falcons are the number one scoring offense in the league this year.
Yep.
They tied the 2001 St. Louis Rams for their place in the most points in the history of the NFL for one season. The Patriots are the number one points against defense in the National Football League this season. So
good.
You sound like the Emperor, aka Mr. Kraft, going good.
For the right price, I can become Roger Goodell and go take a shot at my face.
Ew, don't be. Please don't be. I hate Mr. Goodell. I wish for him to, step down as commissioner so that he stops tainting the NFL with his horrendous decisions. To be fair, he is not as terrible as Sepp Blatter and any of the walking bags of corruption called FIFA. But
this is very true, actually.
But that is hardly saying anything. By the way, we have to figure out a time to watch United Passions just to see if that movie is as awful as they say it is. They say that movie is awful.
Yes, it was nothing more than a glorified I'm Sepp Blatter fest.
Well, we will go ahead and watch that at some other time in the future.
Okay, so.
But right now we have football to talk about.
So, Matt Ryan is the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons.
That's correct.
he has a wide receiver setup that I don't think has been seen since the Aikman era for the Cowboys.
Give me Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt for the St. Louis Rams, and maybe, but
No, fair. I can agree with that.
but Michael Irvin on the outside for the Cowboys was deadly.
Julio Jones could be argued the same.
Oh, Julio's dangerous. I mean, he can do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Julio Jones can do absolutely everything. It's kind of scary, especially against a Patriots secondary that has, at times, struggled. Throughout the season. I mean, I trust the development that Malcolm Butler has made over the season, but you cannot cover Julio Jones one-on-one. But here's the thing. If you double him up,
You leave everyone else open.
Mohamed Sanu on the other side is just as good. Well, not as good as Julio Jones, but he is a top-level NFL receiver.
Devonta Freeman.
Coming out of the backfield who can both catch passes and can run the football extremely effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this unit on the offensive side, and excuse me while I cough. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Is the offense for Atlanta is lethal. Absolutely lethal. However, tell me about Atlanta's defense again. I mean,
You ever hear of cheesecloth?
all right, so
No, okay, not that bad.
yeah,
but
no. They're not as bad as the Packers.
They're not as
were.
bad as the Packers were.
That's not although to be fair, were Green Bay healthy and actually had if they had Morgan Burnett and Sam Shields on the field, then they could have had a fighting chance.
Fair.
However, that was not the case then, and the Falcons secondary is young. I mean, the average age of these Falcons defensive backs is 23, 24.
They're younger than I am.
And they're facing Tom Brady.
Who's older than I am.
And also, Tom Brady is better at football than everybody.
I wouldn't say everybody, but
I mean,
he's better than a lot of people.
he's better playing quarterback than everybody. I believe that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
We can discuss this one later, actually. I can see your points, but I think there's maybe one or two who could also be argued to be on his caliber.
I won't argue that he's the best football player ever. I think Jim Brown is the best football player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here nor there for this discussion.
Anyways, defensive comparison. The total yards per game allowed by the Falcons is 371.2 compared to the Patriots 326.4. It's a bit of an uh-oh.
Yeah.
The points allowed per game, 15.6 for the Patriots and 25.4.
Yeah, about that.
The only way I can see Atlanta giving problems to Tom Brady is the Patriots' offensive line.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, this offensive line is not bad at all.
No, it's not. It's nothing to laugh at, but on their offense, I would argue it is their weakest point.
Yeah. I mean, other than not having Rob Gronkowski out there on the field.
True.
I mean, if you had Rob Gronkowski out there on that field, it would be I would know exactly who I would pick to be winning this football game. But I am kind of certain that I know exactly who I would pull for in this game. I mean, I'm a diehard Patriot fan. Mm-hmm. I've always had a lot of respect for the words. I have always had a lot of respect for the Falcons and for Julio Jones. But Matt Ryan went to BC, so I have reason to root against him automatically. And then also, let me give you a little bit of Super Bowl history.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be the sixth time that the number one scoring offense has faced off against the number one scoring defense.
Always go with the defense.
So let me run you through each of the Super Bowls. Super Bowl 13, Pittsburgh faced Dallas, and this one was a real shootout that Pittsburgh won 35-31. Pittsburgh had the great defense.
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl 19, Dan Marino and the Dolphins faced off against the 49ers, who had the top defense in the league that year. 49ers won 38-16. Only 5 years later, in Super Bowl 24, San Francisco had the number 1 rated offense against the Denver Broncos and the number 1 rated defense, and this was the one time that the offense overwhelmed, and it was such a huge margin of victory. In Super Bowl 24, San Francisco beat Denver 55-10.
Wow.
Yeah. That was... They got utterly annihilated. Joe Montana played maybe the best football game that one player has ever had on the floor of the Super Bowl with how efficient he was.
Fair.
I mean, Steve Young had more touchdown passes, but my God,
Joe Montana.
did Montana rip apart the Broncos. And then the very next year, the Bills and Giants played. The Giants had the number 1 overall defense, and they won by 1 point, 20-19.
Wow.
And then we get to we went a long time without the number 1 offense and defense facing off against each other. The last time that happened was in Super Bowl 48 between Denver and Seattle. We know what happened in that game, which the all-time greatest scoring team in the history of the National Football League scored 8 points against the Legion of Boom. Yeah.
Always go with the defense.
Always go with the number 1 defense. And this actually has a lot of comparisons to me to the Patriots' last time in the Super Bowl in Houston, which was in 2003 against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, it's not a perfect comparison, but New England was mired in controversy early. They picked themselves up. They ended up winning a lot of games late, and they went on a run in which they set themselves up as favorites. Atlanta has been sort of a downtrodden organization in the way that the Panthers were for a long time before they reached that Super Bowl in 2003. And they rode their quarterback Jake Delhomme and their great wide receivers of Musa Muhammad and Steve Smith all the way to the Super Bowl stage, and then came up just short against the great Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Yep.
So this has a lot of similarities to me about that, and I will be fully honest and say that I will not be able to make an unbiased prediction on this game because I want the Patriots to win.
So, I've read the bookies.
Okay.
I've got the stats in front of me right now.
All right. What do you think?
It's a Patriots victory as far as I can see.
Okay.
Always bet on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Always bet on the defense. I like Matt Ryan. I like Julio Jones. I like the offense that Atlanta has. The only problem is that once you start shutting down options, there's nothing left. And I would rather have a team with a good, solid defense that keeps the bullet hole score for the opposing team, and all I got to do is score a field goal, as opposed to trying to grind my way towards a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's all said and done, Tom Brady may not have as many offensive options, but the defense is going to carry him. And all Brady's got to do is get a couple of good passes in. He's got to score once or twice, and that'll be it. Now, that being said, though, if the Patriots secondary cannot contain Atlanta's offense, it is going to be a blowout.
And you think Atlanta will win?
Yeah. But that's a very big if right there. A very, very big if.
I'll add one more addendum to that.
Mm-hmm.
If Vic Beasley and Dwight Freeney and the defensive unit and the defensive line specifically for Atlanta can give Tom Brady and the offensive line complete hell, then I could see that sort of score happening. Because if you can disrupt because they're going to try and take away LeGarrette Blount. and make everything in the offensive game plan for the Patriots about throwing the football.
Yep.
Which Brady can still beat you that way. Because Brady can be great. And he has proven on the Super Bowl stage that he is great. But still, I think the Patriots know what they're doing on this stage.
Yeah, and Belichick's going to have some plan. He always has a plan.
Hey, remember that 20-19 Super Bowl I mentioned between the Giants and the Bills?
Let me guess.
The defensive coordinator for that game was Bill Belichick for the Giants.
Yep.
And the Bills won the AFC Championship game only the week before over the Raiders by a score of 48-3.
Like I said,
bet on the defense.
There's two great American coaches as far as I'm concerned. Bill Belichick and Greg Popovich.
In today's day and age, yes. I still think Vince Lombardi is the greatest football coach of all time.
Fair. I can at least see that as a valid point.
All right, so I think that this will be a classic Super Bowl. I think it'll be a close game whole way through. I think the Patriots pull it out by 4 points.
I see the Patriots winning by 10.
By 10.
Yep.
All right. My score is 34-30.
I actually think it's going to be a fairly low-scoring ordeal, actually.
Okay.
24-14.
All right. There you have it. There are our Super Bowl predictions, and there are our picks for the top games or for the top things to pay attention to over the next week. We'll talk about the postseason awards for the National Football League. We'll talk about the inductees into Canton, who will be announced tomorrow night for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll do that next week, and we will have plenty more stories to come up with. We should have more fighting sports for you at some point in the future.
Come the end of February, we've got probably one of the biggest fights in a long time.
All right, so we'll tease that. We'll have plenty more to talk about there, but for right now, we're out of time. So, I'm Chris Lynch.
Thomas Villalone.
And we hope you liked our predictions and our opportunity to call the game. Have a great day, everybody.
Y'all take care now.